I've been upgrading my gaming setup for over 5 years now, and this is the entire progression. So in the beginning, I was playing Fortnite on my phone. The quality and the graphic literally speaks for itself. It was literally the worst playing experience possible. And literally to make things worse, I didn't have a desk, so I used a chair as the desk and I was just kneeling on the floor. After 2 years on mobile, my brother gave me his PS4, and using all the money I had, I bought a monitor, keyboard, and a mouse. And for the next year, I was playing on console with a keyboard and mouse, which helped me learn the keyboard and mouse keybinds. Eventually, I saved enough money to buy my first ever gaming laptop, which was the Acer Nitro 5. Now, using a kitchen table as my desk and a book as a laptop stand, I was actually pretty happy with my setup. About a year later, I got a new keyboard from my friend. It was so much better than the Red Dragon keyboard I previously used. I also got a super cheap mouse pad, but it was so dirty. And the best upgrade was definitely an actual desk, which I still use to this day. A month later, I finally got a bigger mouse pad and a somewhat budget microphone. I don't know what I was doing, but I literally can't hold the camera still back then. I'm literally shaking it all over the place. It's like so annoying. During that time, I actually thought my setup was complete and I would do no more upgrades. I was definitely improving on the game, so I thought I didn't need any upgrades. But around 3 months later, I bought a laptop fan because my laptop actually started overheating a lot. I was still super broke, so I bought it off Five Below. But since many content creators at the time was using a 60% keyboard, I also got myself a budget one. Still one of my favorite keyboards I ever used. I also finally got a headset, which I never had. I was literally playing with like laptop audio, so I just got a HyperX headset, super cheap as well. And at that time, I was a pretty decently sized creator, so a company reached out to sponsor me and send me a really big mouse pad, which I really like. And it just made my setup look so much more organized and aesthetically well. Then my super unnecessary upgrade started. First, I upgraded my mouse, which I had since the console days, into the Viper Mini, which was so much lighter than the previous mouse and a lot smaller. And I also wanted a microphone stand, so guess what? I bought it. I also wanted my setup to look better in thumbnails, which is a super dumb idea, so I bought these hexagon sound panel things. Literally the most unnecessary thing I bought, but it was pretty cool, I guess. And not to mention, at this time, I was super obsessed with LED lights. So I literally put up so much LED in my room for no reason at all. I barely even used it. And I also got my YouTube play button, which was super nice for the setup. Oh yeah, I also wasted money on a webcam that I don't use at all, but just wanted it for the thumbnail. Why not? Now my setup was actually looking really complete, but there's gonna be more upgrades to come. Now, the next upgrade was about a year later, around 2022, so a pretty long time since the last upgrade. Now, the first major upgrade were these nano leaf lights. I definitely wanted more lights at that time. It took so long to assemble because this thing kept falling off my freaking wall. By the time it was done, it looked really nice. And I actually liked these lights a lot until they started falling back down like a month later. Now, I've been using this keyboard for about a year now, so I decided to upgrade it. I got this T1 Pro 60% keyboard, and it also came with a mouse pad. The new keyboard was so much faster than the old one since it was a more expensive keyboard. Now, I consider this mousepad a downgrade from my last because it was smaller and I didn't really like the material, but at the time I liked the design so much more than the last. And a huge upgrade was my microphone, since this new microphone was so much more professional than the last. The sound quality was so much better, and honestly it also looks so much better. Now, the last thing was this little LED design thing, like a screen that I got sent for free. It was like an okay upgrade, super unnecessary, but overall, looking back, this upgrade was so much more of a downgrade just because the setup looks more like a mess. Now, after around 2 years playing on the laptop screen, I upgraded into a 240Hz monitor, which really changed my setup. Instead of playing on 60Hz, I was playing on 240Hz, and paired up with my new keyboard, which was around a $100 keyboard. This was definitely one of the biggest upgrades I had into my setup. And also, I went back to my old mouse pad. I kept on switching between both mouse pads, but I just really like the OG one better. Now, after 3 years on laptop, I finally got a PC. Definitely the biggest upgrade I've had in my setup, coming all the way from mobile and then switching over to PC. I was completely lost when building this PC. I even put the stock cooler over to AIO. And since this was my first time ever building a PC, this took over 2 weeks to build since I didn't want to break anything. This PC was an amazing PC since it has an RTX 4080 and was definitely a huge jump from my laptop's GTX 1650. Eventually, I finished building the PC, which was such a huge accomplishment. And you guys can just look at the frames. This thing was an absolute beast. 4 months after building my PC, I decided to do a last upgrade. I got a new mouse, which was the ROG Harp Ace. I wanted everything the best of the best, so this mouse was definitely a top tier mouse. And for the keyboard, this is a $200 custom keyboard, literally 10 times better than the previous keyboard I'm using. Some of the fastest switches on the market. I even got a different style mouse pad. It was smaller since I wanted my desk to be more organized, and since I had such a crazy PC, I had to get another monitor since one monitor was not gonna cut it. It was a second monitor, so I did get a less refresh rate. It was a pretty cheap monitor, coming in around $100 or so, but was a 165 Hz monitor. After finishing setting it up, I had one monitor vertical and one horizontal. It just looked so clean since I want to stream more on Twitch, which I still don't. I don't know why. But finally having everything finished, my setup looked amazing, and I could finally call this my dream gaming setup.